Before we get to the work in progress crit, I want to show you how I want you to submit your final logos. And as I mentioned, uh, your logos have to work in a variety of situations. And so what I'm going to have you do, I want you to show it to me on a white background. That's how most of you have been working. But logos also have to work on different backgrounds, a dark background, a colored background. So I want to see what your logo also looks like on a black background. And then the other two things, your logo needs to be able to work small, because as part of your branding assignment, you're going to be doing a business card. And standard American business cards are 3.5 by 2 inches. So it means your logo is probably going to have to work around the size of a quarter. And so if you have a logo that has a lot of detail in it, that's things that might be a little difficult to work with when it goes small. And also, your logo has to be able to work in black and white. Printing things and reproducing things in color is a lot more expensive than printing in black and white. So for a lot of business applications, your logo is going to need to be able to work in black and white, either on a white or black background. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And I showed you this the other day. Before we go anywhere with your logo, you need to idiot proof it. So who remembers the two things I said you need to do on your logo before you start working with it? Yeah.
So one of them was locking it so they wouldn't be able to mess around with it.
Not so much that. It has to do, Sienna, did you know?
Oh, another one was create outlines.
Right. You want to just select everything. You know, I don't know how many fonts I have in here. Actually, the little triangles here are also a font. That's that dingbat font. So to idiot-proof your logos, the two things you want to do are come up here under Type and Create Outlines. And what that does is it locks in your fonts on here, because even if you send this to a client as a PDF, if it was created in Illustrator, anyone can open it up in Illustrator. If they don't have the fonts that you used, it will slap some placeholder text in there and ruin your design. Or you could get someone ambitious at Kinko's or something who decides they want to choose a different font for you. And by locking in your fonts by outlining, that's going to make it much harder to do. The second thing you want to do, if you have any line work, if you have any outline type, I've got these circles that are strokes or lines. I've got outlines around the type. You also want to turn those into vectors and outline those as well. That way, when it goes small in other applications, it won't distort your logo. So the way you do that is come up here under Object, Path, and then do Outline Strokes. And before we move further, yeah, you do want to make sure everything is grouped. You can't really lock it, but you can group it. So once I have done all that with my logo, I'm going to go over here and copy it. Now it's just kind of floating out there in the ether right now. But here's how I want you to present your logo. So I'm going to go up here under File, New. I want you to do a tabloid 11 by 17 inch format on here. I want you to do it in the horizontal or landscape orientation on here. And then you only need one artboard. Now here's something you can add in here. We kind of touched on this with your, when we briefly went over the branding template. This is where you can add bleed. That's that little extra space on the outside of your artboard. And if you have anything that you want to touch the edge, if this were printed out, it needs to extend, and I'll show you why. Standard bleed is usually 1/8 of an inch, which is 0.125. If the chain link is activated, you only have to enter 0.125 in one box, and if you hit tab, it should automatically fill everything in. Don't leave everything here the way it is, and then you can come down here and do create. So here is the board you're going to present. And what I want you to do is have a white background on one side and a black background on the other side. So we need to find out where the middle of this is. So I'm going to come up here under View and put rulers in. And the reason I'm doing that is once you have rulers, you can grab guides from either the left ruler or the top ruler here. Here's the part I always dread, some math. What is half of 17? Anyone?
8.5.
Oh my God, thank God. You have no idea how many times that results in crickets. So I'm going to grab a guideline from that left ruler so I know where the middle is here. So this will be my white background. This is going to be my black background. So if I come over here and just draw a rectangle, and I'm going to get rid of any outline on it. And I'm going to use my guidelines, come up here, and you'll notice I'm having this black background extend all the way to that bleed line, because if we were printing these out, and we may do it, we'll see how time is when we come back from break. I really do like you guys to be able to see this printed out. And I think I can probably sneak it out so you don't even have to pay for it, but I won't say any more because I'm recording this, so I don't want any evidence. Before we get any further, I want to talk a little bit about black. All right, does this look black to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually, well, it is black, but it's not what we call rich black. And what I mean by that, if I come over here to the color picker and double click on it, yeah, it's black. I've got 0 cyan, 0 magenta, and 0 yellow, but I do have 100% black. But look where that falls over here. This is actually not as dark as I can get it. And if you're doing anything for print and you just do 100% for black, what that can do is actually when it prints out, it actually just looks like a very dark gray. So what happens if you come over here to the the color picker and drag this as far down as you can? This is what we refer to as rich black. And you'll notice I don't have 100% black in here, but look at all the other color. I've got 75% cyan, 68, 67. Once you add all those colors in, it's going to make the black look much richer and darker. And people always ask, well, if you want it really rich, why don't you just max everything out here? And the reason you can't do that is this total, when you add all these 4 up, cannot exceed 300%. So if I do 100 of every color, that's going to be 400%. It won't be able to be printed. So I'm not going to, I always forget what the number is, but if you were to add these up, it's going to get very close to 300. I think it comes out to 297. I'll double check that for you. Even up here, you can see the difference. It's a little hard on the projector, but see how black? Up here will always show you the color you started with and where you're going to. See how the black down here doesn't look as rich as that? So if you're going to do any type of backgrounds, you want to go for that rich black. So we have this set up. And remember, I already copied my logo. It's just floating out there waiting to be used. So if I come up here to edit and paste, there's my logo. And what you want to do is kind of size it so it fits comfortably in here. You want a little bit of air around it. If you want, you can drop another guideline and see, let's see, 4 1/4. So I want to see what your logo looks like on a white background. Now what I want to do is see what your logo looks like on a black or rich black background. You can very easily just copy this by holding the Option or Alt key on your keyboard down, and you can just pull off a copy. But here's the thing, if you also hold the Shift key down, it will keep it on the exact same baseline here. So we can go and kind of nicely place this over here. So you'll notice your logo is going to change a little bit when you see it on a different background. Some things, if you have really dark colors in here, might start disappearing into the background. You might have to actually adjust some of your colors. So just to show you, if my logo had originally had, say I used this dark blue for the outside ring here, that looks fine on a white background, but it completely disappears here. So look and see how it looks on a black background and see see if you're going to run any problems with colors disappearing on here. And then finally, so I just hit Command Z to go back. I'm going to pull off another copy here. Again, I'm holding the Option key down to copy it. Now if I hold the Shift key down, it will keep it on the same vertical axis here as well. And here's what we want to look at. We want to see what this looks like small. So come over here to the Scale tool and double click on it. What I want you to do is take whatever size your logo is. I want to see what it looks like at 25%. It always does this to me. I don't know why. Let's see. There we go. All right, so there's my logo small. But I also want to see what this looks like in black and white. As I mentioned, there's a lot of applications. So I'm going to select my logo, and if you come up here to the Edit drop-down menu and you come down here to Edit Colors, you can also convert this to grayscale. And now I'm looking at it. You know, it gets a little dicey in here where some of the letter forms start getting a little lost in the background here. I would say it's right on the fence right now, but what you might want to do is make some minor adjustments. Maybe this gradation back here is what's making that difficult to read. So what if I just swap it out for my black and white logo for just a flat gray in here so we can still read it? So you may have to make some slight adjustments to your logo to get it to read in black and white. And once you've done that, you've made it small. I'm going to copy this by holding the Option key down and dragging it over here. So I want to see what it looks like small and in black and white on a white background and also on the black background. All right. So at any step here, when it goes onto the dark background, double check and make sure you're not losing any information because it's getting lost in the black background. When it goes small, and especially when it goes into black and white, you might have to make some adjustments. It's very common for a business to have a main logo, but then have a slightly altered one for use on dark backgrounds or slightly altered for use in black and white or in a small size on here. And then what I want you to do on this assignment, this is the first time we're going to save files this way, but I want you to get used to it. What you're going to do is, just as you've done everything in here, you're going to save it as a PDF. So I'm just going to put it on my desktop for now. But you're going to have a couple extra steps in here. And I believe this is assignment 6 or 06. Please use your last name on here because I'm getting a lot of files that just say pen tool with no one's name on it, or logo research with no one's name on it, and it's hard for me to figure out whose piece is whose. Here's where you come down and change this to PDF and hit save, but here's the extra step I want you to do. Keep this as Illustrator default. I always check this, view PDF after saving. It will pop it up so you can kind of give it one last look before anything goes to a client. And you know, sometimes stuff gets left on the file. Here's the other step I want you to do is come over here on the left and come down here to marks and bleeds. And I want to show you what this is. I just want you to understand what all these things are. So I want you to check on this assignment all printer marks, and I'll show you what those are. And if this is not checked, use document bleed settings. You want to check that as well. And once you've done that, again, under marks and bleeds, make sure everything's checked. Go ahead and hit save PDF. And this should pop up in Acrobat for me. Here is my file. So you can see all my logos are here, my dark background is here, but you'll also see all this information is placed around the edge. And just to show you what these are, I'll start over here. These are for the printer, all right? What these are for the printer to look at and make sure all their colors are correct. So on the far left, you have both the color spaces that we work in. So on your monitor, you're in red, green, blue, RGB. For print, you're in CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and here is black down here. They also add in this. You can actually get pretty close to black just combining the cyan, magenta, and yellow in here. So a printer would look at this and, you know, if the cyan is starting to look a little green here, or say the yellow is starting to look a little orange, then they know they have a problem on the printing press there. So this is for them. If you go around the side here, remember for printing, your artwork is going to be split into 4 screens, one for each of the process colors. These are the registration marks that they can use to make sure everything is lined up correctly. You'll also see it'll automatically put your file name, the day and time it was created. There are crop marks over here. Anything for print goes for crop marks. The crop marks indicate where this would be trimmed out. And you'll notice my black background, the bleed goes to that bleed line. So it's a little extra. So if in the trimming process it's off by 1 millimeter or 2, I'm not going to get a weird white edge around everything. The color will go off the edge. Here you have a repeat of the color bars, more registration marks, and then also for the printer down here, you'll have a perfect grayscale from black to 15% gray. This way, if the printer looks at this and there looks like there's any color in these grays, maybe they look a little pink or a little yellow or a little bluish, then they'll also know there's a problem on the printing press and they can fix it before they print your job. So I want everyone to put all the printer marks on here just so you understand it. Now, the reality, all printers are going to want you to include that bleed setting. Some printers want the printer marks, some printers don't want the printer marks. They'll usually let you know before you upload the file. So that is kind of on a per vendor basis how that goes. So once you've done this, you can upload it. You'll be done with the assignment. This will be the piece that we do our final critique when we come back from spring break. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
With the additional logos that we turn in for like extra credit,
Right.
you would like to see it still presented the same way, right?
I would, only because that's how you should present it if you're doing a portfolio. And just a note on portfolios, and we don't really get into that in this class, but going out in the world, you need to have a digital portfolio. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be a Behance page. But what that really does is to kind of get a foot in the door with a client or with a prospective employer. But I still advocate having a printed out real physical portfolio, because you know there's a lot of detail work in a lot of the work that we do, and in a 3-inch JPEG online you're not going to see a lot of the real delicate work that we do with typography. And so to be able to walk in, you know, even if you connect with someone online, you're ultimately going to have to meet physically and, you know, talk about the whatever the opportunity is. And having a physical portfolio, I think, is kind of everything. I'll be honest with you, I probably have this job at the college because when I applied for the job, we had to submit digital files. We had to upload files, and obviously they were smaller in JPEGs. And when I came for the in-person interview, I just assumed I should bring my physical portfolio with me. And so when I went to the meeting with all the other instructors here, evidently no one else did that. And so, they were able to see a lot more work than what I had up on my submission, but they were able to see a lot of the really nice photographic work and Photoshop work with really nice typography and everything. And I think it honestly made all the difference. So yes, if you're doing extra logos, take the time. I mean, this took me all of 5 minutes to do. I think it's definitely worth your while. All right, let's move on to the work in progress crit.